Imagine, for a moment, a world untouched by cities, by machines, by the constant hum of human life as we know it today. Close your eyes and picture rolling hills that stretch as far as your gaze can reach, their gentle curves bathed in the soft light of a morning sun. Mist rises from the valleys, curling round ancient trees that have stood for centuries. A quiet river wends its way through the land, its surface sparkling as the sunlight dances on tiny ripples. In the distance, birds call to one another, their songs weaving a delicate thread through the stillness. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and wild flowers, and every inhalation feels fresh, pure, almost sacred. It is here, in this serene and untouched place, that humanity once moved quietly among the landscapes, long before any of our modern structures or technologies existed. Small groups of people, perhaps no larger than a few dozen, wandered and settled in the safest corners of the land. They followed the rhythms of nature, attentive to the changes of the seasons, the whispers of the wind, and the distant rumble of mountains and rivers. Each day was measured by the sun and the stars, and each night the fire they tended became their most trusted companion against the darkness. Now, picture a single family gathered by a modest fire, tucked beneath the shelter of a rocky outcrop. The mother feeds the flickering flames, while a child watches in fascination, her small fingers reaching toward the warmth. The father is nearby, sharpening a simple stone tool, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves and the occasional cry of a distant animal. Everything seems quiet, ordinary, timeless. And yet, beneath the calm, there lies a story that could have changed everything, a moment in the distant past that might have brought humanity itself to the brink, 74,000 years ago. The world held a secret so immense that it would ripple across continents, leaving traces in ice, in soil, and even in our very genes. Scientists today study these traces, piecing together a tale of fire and sky, of ash and darkness, of survival against odds that seem almost unimaginable. But what if we could step back in time, just for a moment, and experience it as the people who lived through it might have? What would it feel like to watch the sky darken in ways no one had ever seen before, or to sense the air change, carrying hints of distant upheavals? The early humans of this time lived with a deep intimacy with their environment. They understood the subtle signs of nature, even if they did not fully grasp the causes. They might notice the earth trembling faintly underfoot, the sudden flight of birds from the trees, or the eerie stillness of animals as they approached the riverbank. Each observation was woven into the tapestry of daily life, guiding decisions, shaping migrations, and fostering a profound respect for the forces that governed their world. And yet, despite their knowledge, despite their attentiveness, they could not foresee the extraordinary event that was approaching, a colossal volcanic eruption, one that would cover thousands of square miles in ash, dim the sunlight, and cool the climate in ways that would challenge every living creature. This is not a story meant to frighten, but rather to invite curiosity. It is a story about resilience, about the delicate threads of survival, and about the remarkable journey of humans who, against nearly impossible odds, persisted. As you listen, imagine the quiet nights, when the wind whispers through the branches and the firelight flickers across the faces of a small group huddled together. Perhaps one of them gazes at the stars, tracing constellations that we will never know, marveling at their permanence and beauty. Perhaps another wonders what lies beyond the horizon, sensing that the world is larger and stranger than anyone can fully comprehend. In these moments, life feels fragile, yet imbued with a subtle, enduring magic. Let yourself walk through these landscapes, slowly and gently. Feel the texture of the earth beneath your feet, cool and slightly damp. Hear the low hum of insects hidden in the underbrush. The distant splash of a fish leaping from the river. Smell the smoke rising from a distant fire, mingling with the aroma of wild herbs and grasses. This is a world where time moves differently, less hurried, less structured, more attuned to natural rhythms. And in this world, a single, extraordinary event waits quietly in the wings. Poised to leave its mark on the story of humanity, we often imagine history as a series of grand, dramatic moments, but many of the most profound events unfolded quietly, subtly, almost imperceptibly, and yet their consequences were vast, echoing through generations. The eruption we are about to explore is one such event, a colossal force of nature that reminds us how interconnected we are with the planet we inhabit. What would it have been like to sense the change before fully understanding it? To feel the world shift in ways that no one could yet explain? Imagine the patience, the attentiveness, the profound curiosity that early humans carried with them. What did they notice that we might overlook today? In the quiet of this prehistoric world, there is a sense of both peace and anticipation. Peace in the gentle beauty of the landscapes and the comforting patterns of daily life. Anticipation in the unknown forces that lie beyond immediate perception. As you listen, allow your mind to wander slowly through this ancient place, noticing details as if for the first time: the glimmer of water, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of an animal. And let the thought linger, softly and without alarm, that even in a time so far removed from us, humans were there, observing, surviving, and witnessing the extraordinary. And now, gently, we take the first steps closer to understanding the event that almost reshaped humanity, that left a footprint so faint yet so profound, that it still whispers through our world today. But before we witness its full impact, let us linger a while longer in the calm, in the quiet, in the serene beauty of a world untouched and undisturbed, where humans moved with curiosity and reverence, sensing the rhythms of life in ways we can only imagine. As the morning unfolds across the quiet hills and winding rivers, life moves slowly for the people who inhabit this land. The air is crisp, carrying the subtle sense of damp earth, blooming wild flowers, and the faint smoke of distant fires. Tiny insects hum softly in the undergrowth, their wings brushing against leaves, and a gentle breeze stirs the tall grasses, creating a soothing, almost musical rustle. Early humans rise with this natural rhythm, not bound by clocks or schedules, but guided by the sun, the wind, and the slow passage of time. Imagine a small community waking beneath the shelter of rocks and trees. Their shelters are simple, crafted from wood, leaves, and stone, blending seamlessly with the environment around them. The people move with ease, accustomed to the textures and scents of the land, their senses finely tuned to subtle changes in weather or the approach of wildlife. A father lifts a child onto his shoulder, pointing out a distant deer grazing near the edge of the forest. The child's eyes widen, marveling at the elegance and quiet grace of the animal, while a mother prepares the morning fire, the smoke curling up into the brightening sky. It is a world both ordinary and extraordinary, where every small observation carries meaning. Tools, the rudimentary by today's standards, are treasured possessions. Stones shaped carefully for cutting, sharpened sticks for digging, and hides stretched to provide warmth are handled with care and skill. These objects are extensions of human ingenuity, quiet companions that help navigate the challenges of daily life. A young person might watch intently as an elder demonstrates the art of flint knapping, feeling the vibration of the hammer striking stone, listening to the crisp, resonant chip of rock falling to the earth. It is in these moments, seemingly small and repetitive, that culture and knowledge pass quietly from one generation to the next. The rhythm of the day is punctuated by simple tasks: gathering fruits and roots, tracking animals for food, tending fires, and observing the ever-changing sky. Early humans noticed the subtle patterns that marked the passing seasons, the migration of birds, the blooming of specific plants, or the thickness of frost upon the earth. They understood, in ways we can only imagine, that survival depended on attentiveness, patience, and the ability to adapt to the world's gentle but relentless changes. It was a life deeply entwined with the natural environment, a life lived with awareness and quiet wonder. Consider the night. When darkness settles over the hills and the family gathers round their small fire, the warmth of the flames contrasts with the cool night air, and shadows dance across the faces of those present. Stories are told, not written, not recorded, but passed along through words, gestures, and the rhythm of speech. Perhaps one person recounts a recent hunt, describing the movement of the animals, the sound of breaking branches, the glint of sunlight on a deer's fur. Perhaps another shares an observation about the stars, noting how they shift slightly with the passing seasons. These stories serve many purposes: to educate, to entertain, to comfort, and to connect each person to a larger world. Imagine, too, the sensory experiences that punctuate daily life. The smell of smoky embers mingling with the fragrance of crushed herbs, the rough texture of bark under a child's fingertips, the warmth of the fire against cool skin, the distant call of a bird or the rustle of leaves as a small animal moves unseen. Even the act of walking carries its own meditative rhythm: the crunch of leaves underfoot, the uneven stone of a riverbank, the soft squish of mud after rainfall. Each step is a gentle reminder of presence, grounding the people in the landscape that sustains them. Early humans also observed subtle anomalies in the world: an unusually dark cloud, the sudden stillness of animals, the tremor of the earth beneath their feet. They may not have understood these signs scientifically, but instinct and attentiveness guided them. These quiet observations were woven into stories and shared knowledge, forming a rich tapestry of understanding that helped communities endure. They learned to recognize danger and opportunity alike, navigating a world that was at once beautiful, abundant, and unpredictable. And yet, life was not merely about survival. It was filled with moments of wonder and curiosity, moments that, in their quietness, feel almost sacred. Imagine a person lying on a soft bed of moss, gazing up at the stars, tracing constellations with a finger, wondering at the vastness of the sky and their small place within it. Perhaps another watches the sunrise, marveling at the colors that spread across the hills, feeling the warmth seep slowly into their bones. These observations are quiet celebrations of existence, reminders that even in a harsh world, beauty and awe can be found in the smallest details. As the day progresses, imagine a small group moving carefully through the forest, collecting roots, berries, and firewood. The rustle of leaves accompanies each step, the occasional chirp of birds punctuating the rhythm of movement. They pause now and then to examine a plant, to taste a berry, to listen to the distant call of a predator. Each decision, each pause, is guided by experience and intuition, a delicate balance between curiosity and caution. This is a world of constant learning, where knowledge is gained slowly, intimately, and with care. Even mundane tasks carry a quiet poetry. The scraping of stone against wood, the rhythmic pounding of roots in a mortar, the gentle flapping of animal hides as they are stretched and dried, all create a soft soundtrack to life. These sounds, subtle and steady, mingle with the natural world, forming an auditory tapestry that is both grounding and meditative. To inhabit this world fully is to move in harmony with it, to notice, to learn, and to savor the simplicity of being. And throughout all of this, the question lingers softly, like a whisper among the trees. What might the world be like just beyond the horizon? What stories unfold in valleys yet unseen, or in mountains that rise beyond the distant forest? For early humans, curiosity was a companion as constant as the fire they tended. It guided exploration, inspired innovation, and sparked the quiet wonder that made survival not just possible, but meaningful. So as you listen, allow yourself to drift alongside these early humans, moving slowly through their day. Notice the gentle sway of the trees, the shimmer of sunlight on a stream, the quiet hum of insects and birds. Imagine the textures, the sounds, the smells, and the warmth of fire against cool skin. Allow yourself to sense the attentiveness, the patience, the curiosity that shaped every choice and every moment. And as you do, a subtle awareness grows, a recognition that the world even then was full of mysteries, of forces both gentle and immense, and that humanity's story is intertwined with the land, the sky, and the rhythm of time itself. In this gentle immersion, we begin to understand not only the beauty of the world before the eruption, but also the profound resilience and adaptability of the humans who lived in it. They observed, they learned, they endured, and they moved forward with curiosity and care. And soon, as we continue our journey, we will encounter the extraordinary event that challenged life in ways that still echo through history, leaving traces in the landscape, in the climate, and in the very fabric of humanity. As the day drifts slowly toward evening, imagine the sky softening into shades of amber and rose. The sun dips low behind distant hills, casting long, quiet shadows across the forest floor. The air grows cooler, carrying the gentle scent of damp earth and lingering smoke from small fires. Birds settle into the trees, their soft rustling merging with the distant murmur of flowing water, for the early humans moving through this world. These transitions were as natural as breathing. Every shift in light, temperature, or sound was observed, understood, and woven into the fabric of daily life. It is in these quiet hours that the mind begins to wander, noticing patterns and pondering mysteries. Perhaps one person pauses to gaze at the horizon, where the last sunlight flickers between branches, wondering what lies beyond the hills, beyond the rivers, beyond what they have ever seen. Perhaps another listens to the evening chorus of insects and small animals, recognizing that the world is alive with subtle rhythms they are only beginning to understand. These moments are steeped in curiosity, in wonder, in the soft hum of awareness that life, though delicate, is full of remarkable complexity. And yet, within this serenity, there lies an unseen force, a distant mountain, dormant for generations, waits quietly, unassuming but immense. Its presence is barely noticed, a silhouette against the fading light, a shadow on the land that seems permanent, eternal. Early humans pass it by as they go about their routines, unaware of the extraordinary power it holds, of the monumental event it will one day unleash. We know this mountain as Toba, a super-volcano, a natural giant whose eruption would alter the world in ways that few living creatures could have imagined. It is almost impossible to grasp the scale of what lies ahead, to imagine a force of nature so immense that it could darken the sky, cool the climate, and reshape the landscapes across continents. Yet, even from a distance, we can envision glimpses of its power. Picture a sudden plume of ash rising from the mountain summit, stretching high into the atmosphere. Illuminated faintly by the last light of the setting sun, imagine the faint tremors that ripple across the earth, subtle but persistent, hinting at the enormous energy being released within. And imagine the quiet curiosity of those who first noticed the unusual smoke or the strange stillness of animals they could not yet understand what was happening, but instinct guided their attention. Imagine, if you will, a small group gathered near a river as the evening deepens. They notice the sky taking on an unusual hue, the sun obscured by thin, drifting clouds of ash. Perhaps a child points toward the sky, curious and unafraid, while an elder senses a shift in the wind and the texture of the earth beneath their feet. Fires are tended more carefully, animals are watched with greater attentiveness, and stories are whispered round the glowing embers. These ordinary human actions, performed quietly and deliberately, become threads in the tapestry of survival, weaving together instinct, knowledge, and the innate resilience of life. Even as the mountain prepares to release its extraordinary force, the natural world continues its quiet rhythms. Trees sway in the evening breeze, leaves whispering secrets to one another. The river flows steadily, carrying its own reflections of light and shadow. Seemingly oblivious to the distant upheaval, animals move cautiously through the forest, sensing changes humans might not fully understand. And humans, for their part, continue to observe, to question, and to adapt, guided by curiosity, experience, and the subtle intuition that has always been part of their survival in these moments. It is worth pausing to reflect on the delicate balance that sustains life. The quiet beauty of a forest, the gentle murmur of a river, the warmth of a fire against the cooling night, each is part of a larger system, interconnected and interdependent. And even when faced with forces as vast as a super-volcanic eruption, the persistence of life becomes apparent. Early humans, small in number and vulnerable in many ways, carried within them the strength, ingenuity, and adaptability that would allow their species to endure. Their survival was not guaranteed, but it was made possible by attentiveness, curiosity, and an intimate connection to the world around them. Consider the what-ifs as well, the questions that naturally rise when contemplating such immense events. What if this eruption had occurred a few centuries earlier or later? What if early humans had not possessed the knowledge and resilience to survive its initial effects? What stories were lost to ash and silence, and what stories survived, quietly shaping the lineage of humanity? These questions hover gently in the mind, not as sources of fear, but as invitations to wonder, to reflect, and to imagine the extraordinary resilience that has carried our species across millennia. And so, as evening deepens into night, let your imagination linger here a while longer. Picture the sky darkened by thin clouds of volcanic ash, the silhouettes of hills softened by the fading light, and the flickering glow of fires round which early humans gather. Hear the subtle sounds of the forest settling into the quiet of night, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of nocturnal animals, the gentle babble of a river. Feel the cool air brushing your skin, the comforting warmth of the fire, and the sense of curiosity that binds humans across time to the world around them. In this space of calm and wonder, we are ready to embark on the journey of understanding the Toba eruption, not as a tale of fear, but as a story of resilient survival, and the enduring connection between humans and the natural world. The mountain waits silently, its power immense yet distant, and early humans continue their quiet lives, observing, adapting, and enduring. And as you listen, you too can move slowly through this world, noticing the details, sensing the rhythms, and contemplating the mysteries that shape the very course of humanity. Soon, we will explore how this extraordinary event unfolded, how the world changed in subtle and dramatic ways, and how early humans responded with ingenuity, courage, and care. But for now, let yourself remain in the calm of this ancient evening, immersed in the gentle sounds, sights, and sensations of a world poised on the edge of transformation. Notice the quiet strength of life, the attentiveness of those who came before, and the profound, or inspiring forces that shape their world and us as we step further into the past. Imagine a world quite different from the one we know today, 74,000 years ago. Earth wore a cooler, quieter mantle, shaped by the rhythms of the Ice Age. Vast landscapes stretched far beyond what early humans had explored, a mix of forests, savannas, and open plains, each carrying its own distinct hum of life. The air was crisp and clean, filled with the scent of wet earth and wild grasses, tinged occasionally with the smoke of a distant campfire. Streams and rivers cut gentle lines through the valleys, blending like silver ribbons under the sun, while distant mountains rose silently, their peaks capped with snow and veiled in mist. The climate was in a delicate balance. Glaciers crept slowly across northern lands, expanding and retreating over millennia, shaping valleys and carving rivers. In regions closer to the equator, warmth persisted, but seasonal patterns shifted subtly, altering the growth of plants and the movements of animals. These changes were gradual, almost imperceptible day by day, yet they guided the lives of the people who observed them. Every cloud, every sudden drop in temperature, every unusual pattern of rainfall carried meaning, offering clues about the rhythm of life and survival in this ancient world. Imagine walking through one of these landscapes. Beneath your feet, the soil is rich and damp, dotted with the occasional stone shaped by rivers long since flowing. Ferns and wildflowers brush against your legs, releasing gentle fragrances into the air. The sounds of nature are ever present. The distant call of a bird, the rustle of small mammals through the underbrush, the occasional snapping of a twig as an animal moves unseen, all round. Life is abundant and vibrant, yet finely attuned to the environmental conditions that sustain it. Early humans were part of this system, moving quietly, observing carefully, and interacting with the land in ways both practical and deeply connected in this world. Animals dominated the landscape in ways that are harder to imagine today. Herds of grazing creatures roamed the plains, their movements deliberate and rhythmic, while predators, lions, leopards, hyenas stalked quietly, using patience and keen senses to survive. Birds of every size and call filled the sky, from the soft cooing of doves to the piercing cries of raptors circling high above. In the forests, small mammals and insects added layers of texture to the environment, and the rivers teemed with fish and amphibians, every living being, from the smallest insect to the largest predator, played a role in a world balanced delicately between abundance and scarcity. Early humans learned to read these subtle signs, understanding the migrations of animals, the patterns of fruiting trees, the safest places to camp, and the routes that offered the most protection from both predators and harsh weather. Their tools, simple but effective, reflected this intimate knowledge: stone blades, scrapers, and points for hunting, wooden implements for digging or carrying, fire to cook and ward off danger. Each object was a quiet testament to human ingenuity, a companion that made survival more certain, a bridge between observation and action. And yet, their relationship with the environment was not merely practical, it was perceptive, thoughtful, and reflective. Imagine sitting quietly on a riverbank, observing the light as it shifts on the water, noticing the shimmer of fish beneath the surface, the way the current shapes the stones it passes. A young person might run their fingers along a smooth pebble, marveling at its shape and texture, while an elder observes the sky, noting the patterns of clouds and stars, interpreting them as guidance for what lies ahead. In these moments, life is both ordinary and extraordinary, imbued with awareness, patience, and quiet wonder. The Ice Age brought unique challenges as well. Seasonal fluctuations were more extreme than today, with cold winters stretching longer and summers sometimes shorter. Rivers could swell unexpectedly. Snow could fall in unusual patterns, and winds carried both the scent of distant lands and the subtle chill that hinted at changes too. Early humans learned to respond to these shifts with care, building shelters that protected from cold and wind, tending fires to maintain warmth, and moving with the land in ways that honored its rhythms. Every decision was informed by observation, curiosity, and instinct, a delicate balance between courage and caution. Consider the night sky in this era. Free from the lights of modern civilization, stars stretch across the darkness in a dazzling display, constellations spinning slowly over the landscape, their presence both familiar and mysterious. Early humans gazed at these stars with wonder, using them to guide movement, to mark time, and perhaps even to imagine stories beyond the known world. The moon rises and falls with quiet regularity, casting silver light over hills and rivers. While nocturnal creatures stir in the shadows, the world at night is alive, yet calm. A gentle reminder of both the constancy and fragility of life. It is easy to imagine small groups, moving silently through this ancient world, following rivers, climbing hills, or resting beneath trees. They notice the colors of the sky at dawn and dusk, the patterns of birds in flight, the shifting scent of the earth after rain. Perhaps a young person discovers a cluster of edible roots and carefully tests them, learning their subtle qualities, while an elder teaches them which leaves will soothe a wound or calm an upset stomach. These observations, repeated day after day, form the quiet foundation of knowledge that ensures survival, the invisible web of understanding connecting humans to their environment. And yet, there is also an awareness of impermanence. The land is beautiful, abundant, and alive, but it is also subject to forces beyond human control, storms that sweep through valleys, rivers that flood without warning, earthquakes that shake the earth, and, eventually, the volcanic eruption that lies ahead. Life in this world is a delicate dance between observation and adaptation, curiosity and caution, endurance and wonder. Every step, every moment, is part of the unfolding story of humanity, shaped by both the gentle rhythms of nature and the extraordinary events that punctuate them. As we move through this landscape in our minds, notice the textures, the scents, and the sounds, the soft hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, the subtle shimmer of sunlight on water, the warmth of fire against cool skin, the crispness of morning air. Allow yourself to sense the attentiveness and curiosity that early humans carried with them, qualities that would one day help them endure a world-altering event. And as you do, gently reflect on the delicate interplay between humans and their environment, the quiet resilience that emerges from careful observation, and the wonder inherent in living in harmony with a world that is alive in every sense of the word. In these moments of reflection, it becomes clear that survival is not only a matter of strength or luck, but also of attentiveness, curiosity, and the ability to move with the world rather than against it. Early humans, though small in number and vulnerable in many ways, possessed these qualities in abundance. Their lives were interwoven with the land, the rivers, the animals, and the skies, forming a rich tapestry of experience and understanding. And it is within this tapestry that the stage is quietly set for the extraordinary event that would follow the eruption of Toba, a force of nature that would test the limits of human resilience, in ways no one could yet imagine, as the morning unfolds in the prehistoric world. Imagine a small community moving quietly through the rolling hills and forests. They are not hurried, not burdened by schedules or obligations, but guided by the rhythm of the sun and the quiet pulse of life round them. Every movement is deliberate, every observation purposeful. A young person kneels by a stream, feeling the cool, flowing water slip over their fingers, watching fish dart beneath the surface, and marveling at the smooth stones that lie hidden on the riverbed. It is a simple act, yet full of wonder, connecting them intimately with the world they inhabit. Early humans relied on keen observation, resourcefulness, and tools crafted carefully by hand. Stones shaped into blades or scrapers, sticks sharpened for digging, and bones repurposed for digging or cutting were not mere objects. They were extensions of human ingenuity. Imagine a young apprentice learning the subtle art of flint knapping, feeling the vibration of the hammerstone against the core, listening to the crisp, echoing chip of stone as it breaks away. There is focus, there is patience, and there is quiet pride in each successful strike. These tools are small yet powerful, opening possibilities for survival, innovation, and the quiet mastery of the environment. Food, too, is central to daily life, not only for sustenance, but as a means of understanding the land. Berries, roots, nuts, and tubers are gathered with careful hands, examined for taste, texture, and safety. Imagine a mother showing her child how to distinguish edible plants from harmful ones, the child's small fingers brushing along leaves, inhaling their earthy scents, and tasting the faint sweetness of a newly picked berry. In parallel, hunters observe herds of deer or antelope, noting patterns of movement, wind direction, and train. They move slowly and silently, their senses alert to every rustle, every shadow, every shift in the air. Each day is a lesson in attentiveness, curiosity, and gentle patience. Shelters are modest but carefully chosen, often nestled near water sources or on higher ground for safety. They are made of branches, leaves, and animal hides, blending seamlessly into the landscape. Imagine a family arranging a small structure beneath a grove of trees, using stones to stabilize the frame and leaves to shield from the morning dew. Fires are tended with meticulous care, smoke curling softly into the sky, casting warm light on the faces of those gathered nearby. Round the flames, stories are exchanged. Lessons are shared and bonds are strengthened. This simple domestic life, though quiet and unassuming, is rich with observation, learning, and connection. The rhythm of the day is punctuated by moments of stillness and reflection. Perhaps an elder sits on a smooth rock, gazing across the valley as the sun warms the hills, noting the patterns of wildlife or the subtle changes in the wind. Perhaps a child discovers an unusual insect or plant and watches it with fascination, marveling at its shape, color, or movement. In these quiet instances, curiosity blends seamlessly with survival. Every observation is a thread in the tapestry of understanding that supports the group. Life is both practical and contemplative, a dance between action and attentiveness. Community and cooperation are vital, even in the smallest groups. Imagine a pair of hunters returning with a small catch, sharing it carefully among those present. There are actions measured and deliberate. Others may carry water, tend the fire, or gather materials for tools. Every task, though simple, contributes to the survival and well-being of the group. And amid this careful coordination, there is also room for play and observation. Children might chase one another across sun-dappled meadows, their laughter mingling with the soft hum of the forest. Every step, every gesture strengthens bonds, teaches skills, and reinforces the delicate web of life that surrounds them. Sensory awareness is a constant companion. The smell of smoke, the rough texture of bark, the cool touch of river water, the warmth of the sun on skin all inform choices, guide movement, and connect early humans to their environment. Imagine a hunter pausing to listen to the distant call of a predator or the rustle of a hidden animal, adjusting their path accordingly. Or consider the quiet observation of clouds drifting across the sky, hinting at a change in weather. These subtle cues, noticed and interpreted carefully, are the quiet intelligence of survival. Even leisure has its moments of quiet wonder. Picture a person lying on a soft patch of moss, gazing up at the treetops and the drifting clouds, tracing shapes and imagining stories. Others may observe the river, watching sunlight shimmer across the water, noticing reflections of sky and leaf alike in these instances. Curiosity is not merely practical, it is a bridge between imagination and the real. A gentle recognition that the world is alive with patterns, rhythms, and mysteries. Every day carries the possibility of discovery, of insight, and of quiet awe. Diet, too, is a mixture of routine and discovery. Alongside gathered fruits and roots, hunting provides protein and sustenance, yet also demands patience, skill, and attention. Imagine hunters crouched in a clearing, eyes fixed on the movement of a distant herd. Wind in their favor, muscles tense but silent. A successful catch feeds not just the body, but reinforces understanding of the land, the animals, and the strategies that ensure survival. Meals are shared quietly and gratefully round fires, the warmth of the flames mingling with the satisfaction of nourishment and the comfort of communal. Once, as the day slowly fades into evening, families gather again round fires, sharing the events of the day and passing knowledge along. Stories blend observation, experience, and imagination lessons about the land, the animals, and the ways to live in harmony with both. Perhaps one story recounts a clever maneuver in hunting, or the discovery of a hidden grove of edible plants. Another tale may describe a peculiar change in the sky, a reminder to remain attentive and reflective. These narratives, though simple, are the threads that weave communities together, nurturing resilience, curiosity, and the quiet wisdom that ensures continuity across generations. And as night descends, imagine the community lying beneath a canopy of stars, the cool night air brushing against their skin, fires casting gentle shadows across the landscape. In this darkness, life is intimate, immediate, and full of subtle rhythms. The distant howl of a predator, the murmur of wind through leaves, the soft plop of water into a river, they are reminders of both vulnerability and the careful, quiet attentiveness that allows humans to endure. Curiosity persists even in sleep, a gentle awareness of the patterns, rhythms, and mysteries that surround them. In this world, survival is a quiet art, a delicate balance of observation, intuition, and cooperation. Tools, fire, diet, and storytelling are not merely practical, they are expressions of a deep, patient understanding of the land, the animals, and one another. Life unfolds slowly, deliberately, in harmony with the environment, each moment an opportunity to notice, learn, and adapt. And it is in this slow, meditative rhythm that early humans prepared, unknowingly, to face a force of nature so immense that it would challenge the very continuity of their existence, the eruption of tea. Toba, as we continue through the quiet landscapes of 70 for 1,000 years ago, imagine a soft tension in the air, subtle yet palpable. Life continues with its gentle rhythm, streams glimmering in the sunlight, leaves rustling in the breeze, birds calling softly from the trees, but somewhere in the distance, the land holds a secret. A mountain, still majestic and serene in appearance, is stirring in ways imperceptible to most. Its presence is quiet yet immense, a reminder of the extraordinary forces that lie beneath the Earth's surface. Early humans, attuned to the smallest shifts in the environment, might notice the first whispers of change. Perhaps the earth trembles faintly beneath their feet. As they gather firewood, or the water in a familiar stream seems to murmur a little differently. Animals, sensitive to patterns beyond human perception, may behave strangely, birds taking flight earlier than usual, deer lingering at the edges of forest glades, or small mammals scurrying with unusual urgency. The subtle signs are there, scattered across the land, as if nature itself is sending quiet messages to those willing to observe. Imagine walking through a forest during this time, the soft soil damp beneath your feet, the sun filtering through the canopy in golden streams. The air carries the smell of wet leaves, moss, and distant smoke from fires tended by your community. Perhaps you notice a faint, unusual scent in the wind, earthy and sulphurous, unlike anything before. Or perhaps the sky seems slightly different, the colors at dawn or dusk tinged with a faint, unfamiliar hue. These are not alarming events in themselves, but they are hints. Subtle whispers of a monumental transformation waiting quietly in the distance, volcanic activity. Is rarely abrupt. Often it begins as a slow, almost imperceptible build-up, tremors too faint to startle, smoke barely visible against the morning light, tiny ash particles settling softly on leaves and riverbanks. For humans who live closely with the land, these anomalies might provoke curiosity, caution, or subtle concern. Imagine an elder pausing to study the mountain silhouette, noting the faint, curling wisp of smoke at its summit. They may share observations with the group, pointing out patterns that seem unusual but without full understanding of what they signify. Animals, too, are sensitive messengers of change. Imagine a riverbank where deer graze cautiously, ears twitching at sounds unseen. Birds shift their songs, moving to different branches or disappearing into hidden groves. Even insects may behave differently, emerging at unusual times or seeking shelter in unexpected places. Early humans, attuned to these rhythms, notice patterns, connecting one observation to another. Though they cannot name the cause, their awareness allows them to respond, adjusting hunting routes, preparing more carefully for weather changes, or tending fires with extra attention. The land itself begins to show subtle transformations. Steam rises from fissures in rocks. Small craters appear where the earth has shifted, and mineral-rich dust settles silently on the soil. Rivers may carry traces of sulfur or tiny volcanic particles, glittering faintly in the sunlight. To early humans, these signs are woven into their ongoing observations of the environment. They notice, they adapt, and they pass knowledge along through stories, gestures, and quiet teaching moments. Each step, each pause, each careful observation strengthens their connection to the world and prepares them, unknowingly, for the extraordinary event that lies ahead. Imagine a group gathered near their fire in the early evening. The sky is streaked with emerald, violet as the sun sets, and a gentle wind stirs the surrounding trees. One member of the group notices a faint gray haze in the distance, curling above the mountain peaks. A child points it out with curiosity, and an elder nods thoughtfully, sharing memories of distant tremors or the subtle changes in animal behavior. Though they cannot yet comprehend the magnitude of what is approaching, their attentiveness embodies the quiet resilience and awareness that will be crucial in the days to come. Even the smallest daily activities take on heightened significance in times of subtle change. Gathering water, tending fires, collecting food, and repairing shelters are performed with meticulous care. Every decision is informed by observation. Which plants show signs of stress? Which animals have altered their routines? How the wind carries unfamiliar scents? These small, deliberate acts of attentiveness form a protective rhythm, a way for early humans to navigate uncertainty with caution and curiosity. And yet, life continues with its quiet beauty. The forest is alive with color and movement. The rivers shimmer in the fading sunlight, and the gentle sounds of nature, leaves rustling, water flowing, birds calling create a soothing symphony. Early humans move through this world not in fear, but in harmony, aware of change yet rooted in the steady rhythms of daily life. Each observation, each adaptation, becomes part of a larger story, a narrative of attentiveness and resilience in a world that is constantly shifting. Consider, for a moment, the mystery of these subtle signs. How much did early humans understand? Did they sense a great force gathering beneath the mountain? Or did they simply notice anomalies in the ordinary patterns of life? Perhaps a story emerges, a sudden flight of birds, a trembling of the earth, a faint ash deposit on a rock. These become shared observations, woven into narratives that guide future decisions. Curiosity, caution, and attentiveness are intertwined, preparing the group for a challenge as yet unseen and creating a quiet, meditative awareness of the larger forces at play. As the day fades fully into night, imagine the community lying under a vast, starlit sky. The cool air brushes gently across their skin. Fires cast warm glows on faces filled with quiet reflection. And the gentle murmur of the forest surrounds them in this peaceful darkness. The mountain rests silently in the distance, unaware of the attention it has begun to draw. Its subtle activity is a whisper of what is to come, a quiet reminder that life is both delicate and enduring, constantly shaped by forces seen and unseen. In this moment, the listener can also reflect on the profound relationship between humans and the environment. Early humans survived not through brute strength alone, but through attentiveness, observation, and a deep connection to the rhythms of life around them. They notice small anomalies, interpret patterns, and act carefully, preparing unknowingly for a challenge that will test these very skills. Their survival depends on perception, intuition, and community, the very qualities that will allow them to endure one of the greatest natural events in human history. And so, as you drift through this ancient world, imagine the faint tremors underfoot, the distant plumes of smoke, the subtle changes in animal behavior, and the quiet vigilance of those who inhabit the land. Notice the textures of leaves under fingertips, the scent of damp earth and wood smoke, the gentle sounds of a river flowing through a quiet valley. Let these sensory details anchor your imagination, allowing you to inhabit the calm, attentive, and resilient world of early humans on the brink of an extraordinary event. In the next chapter of our journey, we will begin to explore the Toba eruption itself, observing how the world transforms under its immense power. But for now, linger in the gentle awareness of the signs, the rhythms of life, and the quiet attentiveness that prepares humanity to face one of nature's most formidable challenges. As the first light of morning touches the hills and forests, imagine a subtle shift in the air. The world seems unchanged at first, the soft rustle of leaves, the gentle flow of rivers, the distant calls of birds, but beneath the surface, the earth is stirring. The mountain we have glimpsed from afar, Toba, begins to whisper its presence in ways that are almost imperceptible. A faint tremor ripples through the valley floor, a vibration so soft that it might be mistaken for the footsteps of a large animal or the settling of soil. Early humans, attuned to the smallest changes, notice the unusual sensation. Perhaps a parent pauses while gathering firewood, placing a hand on the earth and feeling the subtle shiver beneath their feet. A child stops mid-step, listening to the forest as if expecting it to speak. Animals sense the disturbance too. Birds rise. Suddenly in the sky, their call sharp and brief. Small mammals scurry into hidden burrows. Deer hesitate at the edge of the clearing, ears twitching, bodies tensed. These subtle alerts ripple through the environment, hinting that something extraordinary is beginning, though its scale remains unknowable. Then the mountain exhales. A thin plume of smoke curls gently from its summit, drifting slowly with the morning breeze. To the humans below, it appears almost serene, the smoke delicate and silvery against the pale sky. Yet it is a whisper of immense energy, a quiet prelude to forces that will soon reshape the land. Imagine standing near a river, watching the sunlight glint off the water, and noticing this unusual haze curling above the distant mountain. There is curiosity, perhaps a flicker of concern, but no understanding of the scale of what is about to unfold. The initial tremors grow slightly stronger, though still gentle enough to avoid panic. Rocks shift faintly, soil cracks softly, and small stones tumble down hillsides. The subtle sounds of these movements mingle with the familiar sounds of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the murmur of water, the occasional call of a bird. Early humans, trained by generations of attentiveness, observe closely. Adjusting their routines, fires are tended with extra care, animals are watched more closely, and temporary shelters are reinforced. Each action is deliberate, guided by experience and instinct rather than alarm. And then comes the first ash. Tiny, almost imperceptible flakes drift through the air, landing softly on leaves, river surfaces, and the hair of those gathered near their fires. It is light at first, like a fine dust stirred from the soil, but it carries with it a faint sulphurous scent, subtle and unusual. Children might run their fingers through it, noticing the unfamiliar texture, while elders study it carefully, considering its origin and implications. This ash, though small in quantity, is the first tangible sign of Toba's awakening, a whisper of immense power hidden within the mountain. Animals react instinctively. Deer and antelope move quickly across the plains, seeking shelter or higher ground. Birds take flight in sweeping flocks, filling the sky with movement and sound. Even the smallest mammals retreat into burrows, seeking safety from changes in air and vibration. Early humans observe these behaviors closely, aware that animals often sense danger before humans do. The group moves with care, choosing paths that offer protection, preparing for uncertainty, yet maintaining the calm attentiveness that has carried them through countless days before this one. As the day progresses, the mountain's activity grows, smoke thickens, taking on a darker, heavier hue. Ash begins to settle more noticeably on the ground, covering leaves and riverbanks with a soft gray layer. The air smells faintly of minerals and earth, and a quiet unease permeates the landscape, though there is no immediate catastrophe. Imagine walking through the forest, the soft ash crunching lightly beneath bare feet, coating leaves and branches, and noticing how it changes the color and texture of familiar surroundings. The world begins to shift subtly, imperceptibly at first, yet with an underlying rhythm that hints at forces far beyond human comprehension. Then the mountain rumbles, a low, resonant sound that vibrates through the soul, echoing off distant hills and valleys. Early humans may feel it in their chests. A deep resonance unlike anything experienced before. Birds scatter from treetops, their wings beating the rapid, anxious rhythm. Small mammals dash into burrows, and deer pause, ears alert, nostrils flaring as if sensing the energy in the air. Humans respond instinctively. Fire is tended, children are gathered close, and the community moves with calm precision, guided by experience, attentiveness, and the quiet intuition that has always aided their survival. As ash falls more steadily, it blankets the landscape like a soft, grey veil. Leaves, stones, and river surfaces are covered, transforming familiar spaces into a muted, otherworldly scene. The sun, once bright and warm, is dimmed by this thin, drifting curtain, casting the world in an unusual, diffuse light. Imagine standing near a river, feeling the cool water on your hands while grey flakes settle gently on your skin. The soundscape changes too. The quiet rustle of leaves is muted. Birds call less frequently, and distant echoes of shifting rocks or landslides add a low undertone to the natural symphony. Despite the growing intensity, life continues in measured, attentive ways. Early humans adjust their routines. Fires are carefully maintained to provide warmth and light. Shelters are reinforced, and food is gathered and protected. Observation remains crucial. Every movement of animals, every subtle change in the wind or sky, every variation in the ash falling from above informs choices. Curiosity and caution coexist in quiet balance, guiding actions that are both protective and mindful, and yet, even amid these changes, there is beauty and awe. The rising sun filtered through ash casts a soft, silvery glow across hills and rivers. Trees shimmer faintly, leaves dusted with grey, and streams sparkle as the particles catch the light. The landscape, though altered, is still alive with movement, color, and texture. Early humans perceive this transformation with attentiveness, marveling at the unfamiliar patterns, the muted hues, and the quiet resilience of the natural world. At this early stage, the eruption is not sudden or catastrophic. It unfolds gradually, a slow crescendo of smoke, ash, and vibration. The mountain communicates its power in subtle ways, teaching those who observe with care about forces far beyond ordinary human experience. And it is here, in these quiet observations, the tremor beneath a foot, the flight of a startled bird, the soft ash on a leaf, that we begin to sense the scale of Toba's immense presence. A presence that will soon touch every corner of the surrounding world and test the resilience of life itself as the day unfolds. The mountain begins to express its immense power with more insistence. Imagine the air thickening, with fine grey ash, drifting lazily at first but gradually covering the landscape more completely. The sun is now a muted glow behind this veil, casting a soft, silvered light across hills, rivers, and forests. Everything familiar takes on a slightly surreal quality, leaves shimmer faintly under a layer of dust. The river's surface glints through a muted haze, and the earth itself seems to hum with quiet energy. Early humans feel the subtle tremors more frequently now, faint vibrations that ripple through the soil beneath their feet, almost like the distant heartbeat of the mountain itself. Birds fly higher, then circle above, their calls sharp and insistent. Deer pause at the edge of the forest, ears pricked, bodies poised for sudden movement. Small mammals retreat to hidden burrows, and even insects respond with unusual patterns. Life adjusts in real time, guided by instinct and attentiveness. As the natural world gradually recognizes the extraordinary force stirring beneath the surface, ash thickens in the air, softening the soundscape. The rustle of leaves is quieter, the chatter of animals more subdued. Imagine walking along a familiar path, the soft ash crunching underfoot, coating leaves and stones, leaving a pale imprint on the earth. Every breath carries a faint, mineral scent, and the sky overhead is a hazy, muted canvas. The world transforms, slowly but unmistakably, from the familiar into the extraordinary. Early humans observe with curiosity and caution, noting every change in temperature, smell, and sound. The first rain of heavier ash begins to fall. Flakes drift more rapidly now, settling on skin, hair, and clothing. They coat the forest floor in a soft, grey blanket and cling to the branches of trees. Imagine kneeling beside a riverbank, feeling the weight of ash mixing with water on your hands, noticing how the stones, once glistening, are now dulled beneath this layer. The transformation is profound yet subtle, almost dreamlike, a shift in perception as the world takes on a new, otherworldly tone. Animals continue to respond instinctively. Herds move in tighter formations, seeking shelter or higher ground. Birds migrate to safer areas, circling in patterns shaped by ancient instinct. Even small mammals adapt, burrowing more deeply into the soil or hiding under dense foliage. Early humans, observing these behaviors, recognize that the landscape is changing in ways beyond their control. They move cautiously, following familiar paths but remaining alert to hazards: flooded streams, falling debris, or unstable ground. The mountain's rumbling grows deeper, more resonant, vibrating through hills and valleys with a low, steady pulse. It is as if the earth itself is speaking, Communicating power in sound and vibration, early humans paused to feel this resonance. Hands resting lightly on the soil, sensing the pulse that courses beneath their feet. Each tremor is a reminder of the immense energy stored within the mountain, and each observation informs careful choices: where to gather, when to rest, how to maintain warmth and safety. As ash clouds spread across the sky, the landscape takes on soft, muted palette. Sunlight filters through layers of fine particles, painting the world in shades of silver, grey, and pale gold. Trees shimmer beneath the coating of dust, rivers glint faintly through the haze, and animals move cautiously through the softened contours of the earth. The natural world adapts with a quiet grace, a reminder of resilience even in the face of enormous change. Early humans observe with attentiveness, using both intuition and experience to navigate the shifting landscape. Water sources begin to feel the subtle effects of the eruption. Streams and rivers carry small quantities of ash, their surfaces mottled with floating particles. Imagine cupping your hands to drink, feeling the faint grit against your skin. The cold water still flowing steadily but tinged with a hint of sediment. These are early, subtle impacts, yet they hint at larger changes to come. The community adjusts, collecting water more carefully, observing how the environment responds, and maintaining the rhythms of life with cautious attentiveness. The sounds of the eruption now blend into the natural soundscape, the soft whisper of ash drifting through the trees, the distant roar of small rock slides, the low, persistent hum of the mountain. Birds call in urgent bursts, animals move with silent precision, and humans listen, watch, and respond. There is awe in these observations, a recognition of power beyond comprehension, a quiet curiosity, and a deep respect for the forces that shape the world. Imagine sitting near a fire, watching the ash drift lazily through the air, feeling its soft weight on your skin, inhaling its faint, mineral-rich scent round you. The community moves with care, tending the flames, ensuring children and elders are safe. And observing the shifting environment, every action is deliberate, measured, and guided by attentiveness. Even in the midst of monumental change, there is calm, patience, and quiet resilience. The landscape itself transforms in subtle, profound ways. Hillsides are dusted with ash, valleys soften beneath the muted light, and rivers shimmer with floating particles. The world is both familiar and strange, as if viewed through a delicate veil. Early humans, sensitive to these changes, adjust instinctively. Paths are altered to avoid debris, shelters are reinforced against falling ash, and food and water are protected as carefully as possible. Each observation, each response, strengthens the fragile thread of survival, even as the eruption intensifies. Life continues with quiet determination. Children play lightly, sensing change but unafraid, while elders guide and instruct with gentle reassurance. Hunters pause, listening and observing, noting how animals respond to the ash and tremors. Communities move and adapt, maintaining routines where possible, adjusting where necessary, all while maintaining a profound attentiveness to the world around them. And amid this, the sky is transformed. Clouds of ash drift across the horizon, softening the edges of hills and mountains, muting the colors of the landscape, and filtering sunlight into a gentle, ethereal glow. The world becomes both muted and luminous, a slow-motion tableau of power, transformation, and resilience. Early humans witness these changes with curiosity and wonder, perceiving not only danger but also the extraordinary beauty of a world in flux. This is the early crescendo of Toba's power slow, unfolding event that changes the world gently at first, then with growing intensity. It is a reminder that nature's forces often move gradually before reaching their full scale, that life's resilience is built on attentiveness and adaptation, and that even amidst monumental change, There is room for reflection, wonder, and quiet perseverance. As the eruption unfolds fully, imagine the landscape under a veil of ash, stretching across forests, hills, and rivers. The sun is now soft, muted disk behind a vast grey sky. Its light filtered through countless particles drifting gently on the wind. Everything familiar takes on a dreamlike quality. Trees shimmer beneath a thin coating of grey. Rivers glint faintly through the haze, and the earth itself seems softened, as if the world has exhaled into a slower, quieter rhythm. The ash falls more steadily now, layering over leaves, branches, and soil. Walking becomes a gentle crunch beneath bare feet or soft leather, each step leaving a faint imprint in the grey dust. Water in streams and rivers carries the delicate sediment, sparkling with flecks that reflect the muted sunlight. The air carries a subtle mineral scent, an unfamiliar fragrance that hints at the immense forces at work deep within the mountain early. Humans feel these changes with all their senses, the cool weight of ash on skin, the muffled soundscape, the faint tremors beneath their feet. Animals respond instinctively, their patterns shifting in real time. Deer move cautiously across plains, stepping lightly over ash-covered terrain. Birds wheel in uncertain arcs above the forest canopy, their calls sharp and urgent. Small mammals vanish into burrows or hidden nooks, sensing danger beyond immediate perception. Even the wind seems altered, carrying the ash over hills, forests, and rivers with a quiet persistence. In this transformed world, all life adapts with gentle attentiveness, following rhythms shaped by both instinct and observation. Imagine sitting near a fire as the ash drifts round you. It settles softly on the branches of the shelter, dusting the warmth of the flames and the faces gathered near them. Children are curious, tracing the texture of ash with small fingers, while elders watch carefully, offering quiet guidance and reassurance. The community moves with deliberate calm, maintaining fires for warmth and cooking, checking water supplies, and reinforcing shelters against falling debris. Every action is intentional, each step guided by observation, intuition, and collective experience. The soundscape transforms as well. The soft rustle of leaves is muted beneath the accumulating ash. Water continues to flow in rivers and streams, but its sound is softened, the gentle murmur blending with the occasional low rumble of distant rocksides or tremors. Birds call less frequently, and the movement of animals is measured, precise, and deliberate. Even human voices are quieter, harmonizing with the subdued rhythm of the world round them. There is a sense of suspended time, a slow unfolding that invites attentiveness, reflection, and quiet adaptation. Temperature begins to shift subtly, too. Sunlight filtered through ash casts a cooler hue across the landscape. It feels slightly heavier, tinged with a faint sulfur scent. Streams feel colder to the touch, and leaves glisten with the thin coating of ash, altering how light is reflected. Early humans notice these subtleties instinctively, moving with care and adjusting their routines to accommodate the slow changes round them. Curiosity and attentiveness guide each decision. Which path is safest? Which shelter provides the most protection? How to conserve warmth and energy? The eruption's power is immense yet gradual in perception. From the distance, columns of smoke and ash spiral into the sky, reaching heights that stretch beyond the horizon. The mountain exhales with persistent force, a reminder of the energy contained within. Observers feel a profound sense of awe, the quiet persistence of nature's power, the subtle alterations of familiar surroundings, and the remarkable resilience of life adjusting to extraordinary circumstances. Early humans witness this with a combination of alertness and calm reflection, recognizing that survival depends as much on observation as on strength. Animals continue to adapt, moving across the altered landscape with instinctual precision. Herds shift toward higher ground, or more sheltered areas, Birds seek less exposed branches or fly in organized formations above. Ash-covered plains, even small insects change behaviors, retreating into protective spaces. Early humans study these movements carefully, recognizing patterns and responding with similar attentiveness, reinforcing the deep interconnectedness between humans, animals, and environment. Even as the eruption intensifies, daily life retains moments of quiet reflection. Picture a group gathered round a fire as twilight descends. The sky is muted, ash drifting lazily from above. Streams sparkle faintly, stones dull beneath the dust, and trees shimmer in soft, subdued light. Conversations are minimal, gestures deliberate. Yet a sense of connection persists. Children learn from observation, elders pass on knowledge, and the community functions with subtle coordination and deep attentiveness. Life adapts in rhythm with the forces shaping it, embracing both fragility and resilience from above. The sky itself transforms. Ash clouds drift across vast distances, muting the sun and creating an ethereal, silvery atmosphere. Hills, forests, and rivers are softened beneath this grey blanket. Shadows are muted, colors subdued, and the world takes on a timeless, meditative quality. Early humans perceive this with awareness, curiosity, and careful adaptation, noticing not only the danger but also the quiet beauty inherent in a world undergoing profound transformation. Water sources are gently altered. Rivers and streams carry layers of ash, glittering under the filtered light. Imagine dipping your hands into the cool flow, feeling the subtle grit of mineral-rich particles. Life adapts, fish adjust. Waterfowl move to deeper sections, and humans gather and purify water as carefully as possible. The natural world demonstrates resilience, even as conditions shift, and early humans respond with measured attentiveness, observing and learning at every step. The day slowly pauses, each hour marked by the steady fall of ash and the subtle rumble of the mountain. Fires crackle softly, smoke mingling with the fine ash drifting through the air. The community moves with quiet deliberation, maintaining warmth, collecting water, tending the sick or young, and observing the natural cues that guide survival. Every act is infused with care, each decision informed by observation and experience. Life, though challenged, continues with gentle resilience. Even as night falls, the world remains transformed. Ash continues to drift, coating the landscape in silvery grey. Stars appear faintly behind the muted sky, glimpsed through thin curtains of particles. Fires illuminate faces gathered close. Children watch curiously, and elders reflect silently on the unfolding forces around them. In this quiet darkness, life persists, adaptive, attentive, and remarkably resilient. Nature's power is immense, yet life endures through observation, cooperation, and the patient rhythms of daily existence. This is the essence of the full-scale eruption, a slow, immersive, and transformative event. It is not only a display of incredible natural power, but also a reminder of resilience, adaptability, and attentiveness. Early humans experience it intimately, feeling its effects through all senses, observing its patterns, and adjusting carefully to survive. And it is within this quiet, reflective entrance that humanity's remarkable ability to persist across millennia becomes evident, even in the face of forces far beyond comprehension. In the days and weeks following the eruption, the landscape settles into a quiet, altered rhythm. The immediate fury of ash and smoke has passed, but the world remains draped in a soft, silvery veil. Sunlight filters through lingering particles in the sky, casting an ethereal glow across forests, rivers, and hills. The familiar colors of the land are muted, greens softened, browns dulled, blues of water dimmed, but the subtle beauty persists. Life continues, adapting slowly and thoughtfully to the transformed environment. Early humans notice these changes, With attentiveness honed over generations, streams carry more sediment, their surfaces sparkling faintly under diffuse sunlight. Soil feels different beneath hands and feet, dusted with fine ash, leaves now coated in pale grey. Glisten with tiny particles, the air is cooler, heavier, and carries a faint, mineral-rich scent. Humans move cautiously, observing how animals respond to the altered world. Deer graze more cautiously, birds call less frequently, and small mammals venture from burrows with careful hesitation. Observation becomes a vital guide, shaping daily routines and decisions about food, shelter, and travel. Temperature begins to shift subtly but noticeably. Sunlight, filtered through ash clouds, is dimmer and cooler. Days are shorter in sensation, mornings feel chillier, and evenings come earlier. This shift affects not only humans but the plants and animals that share the landscape. Imagine a grove of trees, leaves coated in fine ash, sunlight diffused to a soft, silvery hue. Beneath them, flowers struggle to bloom, and small insects adjust their patterns of activity to match the changing light and temperature. Even rivers, though still flowing, carry cooler water that alters the behavior of fish and waterfowl. Food sources are impacted gradually. Plants struggle under diminished sunlight and a layer of ash. Berries, roots, and edible leaves are harder to find, and foraging becomes more deliberate and time-consuming. Imagine a young gatherer kneeling in soft ash, searching carefully for tubers buried beneath the grey layer, feeling the texture of soil and ash under fingers, and noticing the subtle differences in plant growth. Hunters, too, adapt. Herds of deer or antelope behave differently, their movements influenced by new ground conditions and altered vegetation. Early humans rely more than ever on observation and patience, adjusting hunting and foraging techniques to suit a landscape that has changed quietly but profoundly. Animals demonstrate remarkable adaptability. Deer and antelope migrate to areas with more abundant food, birds all to flight paths and nesting sites, and smaller mammals burrow deeper or shift habitats. Their movements provide subtle cues to humans, guiding choices about where to find sustenance and safety. Early humans watch closely, learning patterns from instinctual animal behavior and adjusting their own actions to match the slowly unfolding rhythm of the world. There is a quiet harmony in this adaptation, a mutual awareness between humans and the natural environment that supports survival. The ash that blankets the land also alters the visual and auditory experience. Colors are muted, sounds softened, and movement appears slower beneath the pale, silvery layer. Even familiar landmarks take on a slightly surreal quality. A riverbank looks different. Dusted in grey, a grove of trees glows faintly in filtered light. A rocky hill appears softened at its edges. Early humans move through these altered spaces with careful attentiveness, learning to navigate both the subtle hazards of ash-covered ground and the new patterns of wildlife that emerge. Every step, every observation, becomes a quiet lesson in adaptation and resilience. Water, essential for survival, becomes a focus of careful attention. Streams and rivers carry ash and sediment, subtly altering taste, clarity, and flow. Imagine cupping hands into a river, feeling the cold water mixed with fine particles. Sparkling faintly in the diffuse sunlight, communities respond with thoughtful care, collecting water in clean vessels, filtering debris, and ensuring that young and elders have access to fresh supplies. This attention to detail demonstrates the quiet intelligence of early humans, resilient, observant, and adaptive in the face of a world reshaped by forces beyond comprehension over weeks and months. The sky slowly begins to clear. Though a residual haze remains, the sun regains some of its brilliance, warming the earth more directly, but the memory of dimmed light lingers. The landscape gradually recovers from the immediate impact of ashfall, yet the effects of cooling and reduced sunlight persist. Crops and plants grow more slowly, rivers remain cooler, and animals adjust their habits to a subtly transformed ecosystem. Early humans respond by carefully timing foraging, hunting, and travel, observing changes in the land and learning patterns that will guide survival through a fragile period. Communities become even more reliant on observation, cooperation, and communication. Tasks are coordinated with precision. One group gathers firewood from sheltered areas, another collects water, and hunters explore paths that offer the safest routes to prey. Knowledge is passed along in quiet narratives lessons about which areas provide the best food, how animals respond to new environmental conditions, and strategies for staying safe during the lingering ashfall. Each story, each observation, reinforces a network of care and attentiveness that ensures survival through difficult circumstances. Even leisure retains its gentle presence. Children trace the fine ashen leaves, observing textures and patterns. Elders sit on smooth rocks near rivers, reflecting on the transformation of the landscape. Streams continue to murmur softly. Birds call in quiet bursts, and the occasional distant rumble reminds humans of the mountain's immense presence. These moments of stillness are not idle, they are a form of quiet learning, observation, and reflection, connecting humans to their environment in ways both practical and deeply meditative. The eruption, though catastrophic in scale, also reveals the remarkable adaptability of life. Plants, animals, and humans respond with observation, patience, and attentiveness. Each species follows subtle rhythms. Plants grow where light allows. Animals migrate or shift habits. And humans adjust their routines and strategies to the transformed landscape. This adaptation is not hurried or frantic. It is deliberate, quiet, and resilient, a testament to the deep intelligence embedded in life itself over time. The memory of the eruption persists in subtle ways. Ash-enriched soil encourages new growth in some areas. Rivers carry minerals that alter ecosystems, and patterns of human settlement shift slightly to accommodate the transformed landscape. Early humans learn from these changes, passing knowledge through stories, gestures, and demonstrations. Even in the face of immense disruption, life finds a way forward. Adaptation is slow, deliberate, and deeply connected to the rhythms of the natural world. And so, as the world settles into this new equilibrium, we witness the quiet entrance of life. The mountain has reshaped the environment, dimmed the sunlight, cooled the earth, and challenged the rhythms of survival. But humans, animals, and plants continue to live, adapt, and thrive. There is a profound lesson in this gentle entrance: attentiveness, observation, cooperation, and patience are powerful tools for navigating even the most extraordinary forces of nature. As the days, months, and years pass following Toba's eruption, humans move through a world quietly transformed. The ash has settled, the skies gradually clear, and the familiar rhythms of sun and river slowly return. Yet subtle changes remain. Scientists today hypothesize that this extraordinary eruption may have created challenges that affected humans far beyond the immediate region, gently nudging the course of evolution. Imagine the quiet forests, rivers, and plains, now cooler and softer, inhabited by humans observing, adapting, and persevering. Genetic studies suggest that humanity's journey through this period may have been shaped by a population bottleneck, a subtle narrowing of genetic diversity, a gentle reminder of the fragility of life when faced with profound environmental change. Early humans, scattered across continents, faced harsher conditions, diminished food sources, cooler temperatures, and altered ecosystems. Yet even in this delicate balance, survival persisted. Families, small groups, and communities leaned on observation, cooperation, and adaptability to continue, leaving subtle traces of resilience in the genetic tapestry that would carry forward for generations. Consider what life might have been like on a daily basis. Communities moved carefully through ash-covered landscapes, collecting water and food with heightened attentiveness. Every decision from choosing a foraging path to maintaining fires and shelters carried weight, not as a source of fear, but as a practice of mindfulness and adaptation. Children watched elders, learning how to notice subtle signs in the environment, the behavior of animals, the texture of soil, the shifting patterns of clouds or wind. Each lesson reinforced a delicate yet enduring connection to the natural world, fostering a quiet intelligence crucial for survival. Scientists and anthropologists also suggest that Toba's eruption may have influenced global climate. Causing a volcanic winter, temperatures may have dipped slightly. Sunlight filtered through lingering ash clouds, and ecosystems adjusted slowly in response. Rivers and forests shifted in their cycles. Plant growth slowed, and animals moved in response to new conditions. Early humans responded with extraordinary attentiveness, observing patterns, adjusting routines, and relying on social cohesion to navigate a world that was at once familiar and subtly altered. Imagine the careful observation required to understand these changes. A hunter notes that deer graze differently, shifting to new valleys or higher hills. Gatherers recognize that certain plants now emerge later in the season, or grow more sparsely. Even smaller creatures, birds, rodents, insects provide clues about the environment, their patterns subtly guiding human action. Life unfolds in a rhythm shaped by patience, attentiveness, and careful adaptation, illustrating a profound harmony between humans and the natural world even under extraordinary stress. Theories about Toba's impact on humans extend beyond survival into the realm of genetics and human migration. Some researchers suggest that this period may have influenced population structures, creating smaller, more isolated groups that relied heavily on cooperation and shared knowledge. Imagine a group huddled near a fire as the cool air of post-eruption mornings brushes their skin. They share stories, demonstrate techniques for finding food in the altered landscape, and teach children to observe carefully and respond thoughtfully. These practices, seemingly ordinary, may have contributed to human resilience, preserving small groups in a changing world and allowing our species to endure across continents and millennia. It is fascinating to reflect on the subtle balance between catastrophe and adaptation. Toba's eruption, while immense in scale, did not extinguish humanity. Instead, it tested adaptability, observation, and social cooperation. Humans who survived were those who could notice faint cues from the environment, adjust routines with care, and maintain cohesion within their communities. Each decision where to gather water, when to travel, how to protect food was both practical and profoundly reflective, requiring mindfulness in a world made delicate by nature's immense power. Anthropologists also ponder the what-ifs. What if humans had failed to adapt during this period? How might the course of evolution have changed? Yet history reveals that life persisted. Small, attentive communities navigated altered forests, rivers, and plains, passing knowledge along through careful observation, stories, and shared experience. Even in the quietest, most subtle actions, tending a fire, choosing a sheltered path, observing the movement of a herd, humans practiced resilience, creating ripples that would extend far beyond the immediate aftermath of the eruption. Environmental cues remained essential guides. Clouds of ash lingered in the sky long after the eruption, subtly filtering sunlight and cooling the land. Rivers carried traces of minerals and sediment, offering clues about the land's changing fertility. Vegetation adapted slowly, with some areas flourishing while others struggled. Animals adjusted their behaviors to match new conditions, providing constant signals to humans who knew to watch, learn, and respond. The interdependence between humans and their environment became more pronounced. A quiet lesson in attentiveness, patience, and the delicate rhythm of life. Imagine, for a moment, walking through an ash-tinged forest in the months after the eruption. Leaves shimmer faintly under muted sunlight, streams sparkle with suspended particles. Carrying mineral-rich water across soft, grey earth, birds call softly, shifting nesting patterns in response to cooler conditions. Early humans navigate this landscape carefully, gathering roots and berries, maintaining fires, observing animal behavior, and sharing knowledge with others. Every act, though seemingly ordinary, becomes a practice of resilience, intelligence, and deep connection with the world. The genetic and anthropological legacy of Toba may be subtle, yet profound. Population bottlenecks, shifts in migration, and adaptation to altered climates may have shaped the diversity and resilience of modern humans. Each careful observation, each adjustment to a changing environment, and each act of cooperation contributed to survival. Humans endured not through force alone, but through mindfulness, attentiveness, and the ability to navigate subtle changes in their world with intelligence and patience. Even now, reflecting on this ancient period, we can imagine the quiet determination of early humans, children learning through observation, elders guiding with gentle authority, hunters and gatherers moving thoughtfully across the ash-tinged landscape. The eruption, though monumental in scale, becomes part of a broader story of human resilience, an enduring narrative of adaptation, attentiveness, and the remarkable capacity to thrive amid environmental change. This chapter of history invites reflection. Toba's eruption was not just an event of destruction. It was a profound lesson in observation, adaptation, and endurance. It reminds us that even in the face of forces far greater than ourselves, life persists through attentiveness, cooperation, and thoughtful response for early humans. Each small act choosing a safe path, tending a fire, observing animal behavior was part of a delicate dance with nature, a slow, deliberate practice that ensured survival and carried lessons forward across generations. In the centuries following Toba's eruption, the world slowly adjusted to a climate subtly altered by volcanic forces. Scientists theorize that sunlight may have been partially blocked for use by lingering ashen. The atmosphere, cooling the Earth's surface slightly. Imagine mornings that feel cooler than before. The sunlight softer, its warmth diffused through a thin veil. Rivers and lakes, still carrying traces of ash and minerals, shimmer under a pale, gentle light, and forests adjust slowly, as if holding their breath while the world recovers. Early humans, finally attuned to these changes, noticed subtle shifts in their surroundings. Plants grew more slowly, flowering patterns shifted, and certain berries or edible roots were scarcer than before. Streams and rivers cooled, affecting fish and waterfowl, and animals moved to adapt to the altered climate. Every day became a careful study in observation, noticing which areas provided food, which water sources remained reliable, and how animal behavior signaled larger environmental changes. Survival was rooted in attentiveness, patience, and adaptation. Imagine a small group near a riverbank in this post-eruption world. They gather roots from soft, ash-covered soil, collect water from the gentle stream, and watch a herd of deer moving cautiously along the opposite bank. Children observe quietly, learning which plants remain edible, which paths are safest, and how animals shift in response to the subtle coolness in the air. Elders guide gently, teaching through demonstration and shared observation, passing knowledge that ensures continuity in a world that has been profoundly transformed. Scientists suggest that the cooling effects may have influenced vegetation across continents. Grasslands may have shrunk in some areas, forests adapted to new light and temperature patterns, and some regions experienced shifts in biodiversity. Animals that relied on abundant food had to adjust, migrating or changing foraging patterns for early humans. These ecological changes required flexibility and careful observation. Every choice where to set up camp, which plants to harvest, how to track prey was guided by attentiveness to the quiet shifts in the environment. The volcanic winter, though subtle compared to modern winters, created a delicate balance. Days were cooler, nights longer in perception, and light filtered through a soft haze. Humans adapted through thoughtful routines, tending fires to maintain warmth, planning food collection round cooler conditions, and navigating landscapes changed by ash and sediment. Communities relied on cooperation more than ever, sharing resources and knowledge to weather an extended period of subtle environmental stress. Long-term ecological consequences unfolded gradually. Rivers carried mineral-rich sediments that enriched soil in some areas while creating challenges. In others, plant growth became uneven, and animal population shifted in response to food availability and climate. Imagine walking along a trail where leaves crunch softly underfoot. Streams carry faint traces of ash, and birds sing in patterns altered by changes in sunlight. Humans, observing these shifts, learn to anticipate and respond, a quiet practice of intelligence and resilience passed from one generation to the next. Anthropologists reflect on how such events may have shaped human evolution. Small, attentive groups scattered across vast landscapes may have experienced subtle genetic bottlenecks, where survival depended on observation, cooperation, and adaptation. Imagine families moving through forests cautiously, sharing knowledge of safe routes, abundant water, and edible plants. These daily acts of attentiveness may have influenced patterns of behavior, social cohesion, and long-term survival, leaving an imprint on human genetics and culture that echoes to the present day. Even the smallest details mattered. Water collection required careful observation, which streams remained clean, which pools held cooler water, and how sediment affected taste or clarity. Foraging demanded attentiveness. Some plants thrived in ash-enriched soil, while others struggled. Hunting required knowledge of animal behavior under altered conditions. Noticing shifts in movement, herd patterns, and feeding habits, in this delicate interplay, humans learned resilience, patience, and adaptation, practices that would ripple through generations. The natural world, too, demonstrated its own subtle resilience. Forests slowly regenerated, grasses re-emerged in some areas, and animal populations stabilized as they found new equilibrium. Even in the aftermath of monumental disruption, life found pathways forward. Humans were part of this ecosystem, observing patterns, responding to subtle cues, and adjusting behavior to ensure survival. It is a reminder that survival is rarely about force alone. It is about attentiveness, observation, and careful adaptation to subtle signals in a changing world. Imagine evenings when the sun casts pale, diffused light over rivers and hills. Early humans sit near fires, sharing stories, teaching observation of the environment, and reflecting on patterns in animal behavior and plant growth. Children listen, absorbing knowledge through demonstration, gesture, and quiet reflection. Every act of learning is a practice in attentiveness, a step toward enduring the subtle challenges created by the eruption. In this slow rhythm, life continues, quiet and observant, adapting to circumstances that may seem monumental yet unfold gradually. Some scientists suggest that the eruption's ripple effects may have influenced migration patterns, as certain regions became less hospitable. Humans moved to areas where food and water were more reliable. These migrations were measured, cautious, and highly observant, guided by knowledge passed through generations. Even minor cues, direction of wind, seasonal shifts, river flow helped guide these movements. Such subtle adaptations demonstrate a quiet intelligence, the capacity to notice patterns, and the wisdom to act with patience and care. Throughout this period, humans were intimately connected to the environment. Every decision required observation, reflection, and mindfulness. Hunting, gathering, fire maintenance, and water collection were not just routines, they were daily practices in resilience. Children learned by participating, observing, and imitating, ensuring that knowledge of adaptation persisted across generations. The eruption, though immense and disruptive, became a catalyst for attentiveness, cooperation, and ingenuity, shaping the very rhythms of human life and survival in the long-term view. Toba's eruption was not just a moment of destruction, but a slow, transformative influence on climate, ecology, and human evolution. Early humans responded with quiet resilience. Guided by observation, patience, and cooperation, ecosystems adapted gradually. And humans learned to navigate subtle challenges with intelligence and care. Even amid immense forces of nature, life persisted through attentiveness, reflection, and the careful reading of subtle environmental cues. And so, as centuries passed, the world recovered in its own quiet rhythm. Rivers flowed steadily once more, forests regenerated, and animals adapted to altered habitats. Humans continued their careful, deliberate observation of the natural world, applying lessons learned from the subtle, enduring effects of Toba's eruption. In this meditative persistence, we see the quiet power of adaptation, the enduring capacity of life, and the remarkable resilience of humanity across time and circumstance. As decades pass, the world slowly moves toward equilibrium after Toba's monumental eruption. The ash that once cloaked the skies gradually settles, and sunlight returns to a warmer, more familiar hue. Yet the subtle echoes of the event linger in climate patterns, ecosystems, and human populations. Across continents, life continues, adjusting in quiet, deliberate rhythms, demonstrating the deep adaptability of both nature and humanity. Scientists studying this period suggest that Toba's eruption may have temporarily reshaped global climates. Average temperatures may have dipped slightly for years, influencing plant growth, animal behavior, and even human activity. Forests adjusted gradually, some species thriving in ash-enriched soil while others struggled to recover. Grasslands expanded or contracted in response to cooler conditions, and rivers carried mineral-rich sediments across vast distances. The world, though altered, was not broken. It adapted slowly, thoughtfully, as life always does. Early humans, keenly attuned to these subtle changes, relied on careful observation to navigate a transformed environment. Communities moved cautiously, noting where plants were abundant, which streams flowed cleanest, and how animals shifted their habits in response to changing conditions. Imagine a family traveling through a valley dusted in fine ash, watching a herd of deer cross a pale riverbank, or noticing a patch of edible roots emerging from softened soil. Every act of attention, every careful step, every observation was a practice in resilience and survival. Genetic studies suggest that this period may have narrowed human population sizes in certain regions, creating what anthropologists call a bottleneck. While daunting in concept, this bottleneck did not erase humanity. It strengthened the reliance on cooperation, knowledge sharing, and attentive observation. Families and small groups developed social strategies that reinforced survival, teaching the young, guiding the inexperienced, and pooling resources in ways that ensured continuity. Survival became a collective act, measured and thoughtful, as much about wisdom and observation as about strength or speed across the natural world. Recovery unfolded in subtle ways. Rivers, once clouded with ash, now carried traces of minerals that enriched soil downstream. Forests slowly regenerated, seedlings pushing through soft, grey soil. Leaves glinting faintly under returning sunlight, animals adapted, finding new habitats or shifting migration patterns. Birds altered nesting cycles, small mammals shifted burrow locations, and larger herbivores moved to areas of abundance. Humans observed these changes carefully. Learning to anticipate patterns and respond with deliberate action, imagine walking through a valley in this slowly recovering world. The ground is soft with ash-enriched soil. Rivers glimmer under gentle sunlight, and the air carries a faint mineral scent. Trees shimmer with new leaves. Wild grasses emerge in patches across the landscape. Early humans move thoughtfully, foraging, gathering and hunting with quiet attentiveness. Children observe and imitate, learning which plants are edible, how animals behave, and how to navigate a world shaped by forces far beyond immediate comprehension. The eruption's long-term influence on human genetics is subtle but profound. Bottlenecks may have emphasized adaptability, attentiveness, and social cooperation, shaping behaviors that contributed to survival across generations. Groups who observed their environment closely, shared knowledge, and responded with care were more likely to endure. Every careful decision, choosing a safe path, tending a fire, tracking a herd, was a thread in the tapestry of survival, woven slowly through generations into the continuity of human life. Ecologically, the world adjusted with quiet precision. Rivers that carried sediment enriched soil for new plant growth, facilitating a gradual return of biodiversity. Forests regained structure as trees matured, and animals re-established population patterns. Even the smallest creatures played a role. Insects pollinated recovering plants, small mammals aerated soil, and birds distributed seeds across landscapes. Humans, observing and responding to these ecological cues, became participants in a vast, ongoing cycle of adaptation and renewal. The subtle lessons of this period are remarkable. Humans learned to notice patterns in climate, vegetation, and animal behavior, to anticipate changes and to respond collectively. Fire became not just warmth, but a tool for safety and food preparation. Movement across landscapes required attention to terrain and seasonal shifts. Water collection demanded awareness of flow, clarity, and mineral content. Every ordinary task became an act of attentiveness, patience, and careful adaptation, contributing to survival in a world quietly recovering from monumental disruption. Even cultural practices may have been shaped during this period. Stories, gestures, and shared knowledge reinforced patterns of observation and cooperation. Elders taught the young about subtle environmental cues, guiding behavior that promoted survival. Children learned by participating in daily tasks, absorbing lessons in observation, adaptation, and reflection. Knowledge was transmitted quietly but persistently, becoming part of the collective intelligence that ensured communities endured despite environmental challenges. Imagine an evening scene in a recovering world. A family sits near a flickering fire, watching as faint stars emerge behind a soft haze. Streams murmur gently nearby, carrying enriched water through ash-softened valleys. Children listen closely as elders describe how to recognize edible plants, track animals, and navigate the delicate rhythms of day and season. Every detail, every story, is part of a continuous thread of survival and understanding, a calm, patient practice of attentiveness that stretches across generations. The Toba eruption reminds us of the interconnectedness of life. Humans, animals, plants, and landscapes respond to each other in subtle, ongoing ways. Adaptation is not instantaneous. It is the quiet, measured response to changes in the environment, informed by observation, knowledge, and cooperation in these slow, deliberate rhythms. Life demonstrates resilience, and humanity learns the value of patience, attentiveness, and reflection. Even as centuries passed, the memory of this transformative event persisted, not in fear alone, But as a lesson in endurance, humans survived, adapted, and continued to explore, migrate, and thrive, carrying forward the intelligence and resilience cultivated in the aftermath of extraordinary challenge. The eruption was monumental, yet it became part of a larger story, one of attentiveness, cooperation, and the remarkable capacity of life to endure and flourish across generations. In contemplating this ancient period, one can imagine walking through quiet valleys, observing rivers and forests, noting the behavior of animals, and sensing the subtle rhythms of a recovering world. Early humans did this daily, their survival intertwined with careful observation, thoughtful action, and cooperative effort in these calm, reflective practices. We glimpse the foundations of resilience that continue to define humanity today, as centuries unfold after the Toba eruption. We can reflect on the profound lessons embedded in this ancient event. The world slowly regained its rhythms, forests matured, rivers flowed steadily, and animals resumed patterns shaped by both instinct and adaptation. Yet the eruption's influence lingered in subtle ways, in genetic traces, in human migration, and in the delicate balance of ecosystems quietly recalibrating. It is a reminder that life, though fragile, possesses an extraordinary capacity for endurance. Early humans navigated these altered landscapes with remarkable attentiveness. Every movement was measured, every observation intentional. Imagine walking alongside a small group as they cross a soft, ash-covered valley at dawn. Mist hovers over the river, glimmering faintly in the diffuse sunlight. Children follow carefully, learning the gentle art of observation, noting animal tracks in soft soil, tracing subtle shifts in vegetation, and observing patterns of clouds or wind. Elders guide with quiet authority, teaching not only practical survival skills but also patience, reflection, and harmony with the world. Scientists today continue to study Toba, exploring questions about its effects on human genetics, climate, and global ecology. How extensive was the bottleneck in human populations? Which regions were most affected by the cooling climate? And how did ecosystems recover? How did early humans adapt their social and cultural practices to survive in these subtly altered environments? These questions invite both curiosity and wonder, reminding us that much about our distant past remains mysterious, yet profoundly meaningful. The eruption also highlights the interconnectedness of life. Humans, animals, plants, and the environment are woven together in a delicate, dynamic web. Each species responded in its own way. Deer and antelope migrated to abundant pastures. Birds adjusted nesting sites. Plants thrived in mineral-rich soil. And humans learned to anticipate and respond to subtle environmental cues, observing these interactions reminds us that survival is rarely about strength alone, it is about attentiveness, cooperation, and a deep awareness of one's surroundings. Consider, for a moment, a quiet evening in a recovering world. The sun is soft and low, casting long shadows across ash-dusted hills. A gentle breeze carries the faint scent of rivers and forests. Fires flicker, illuminating the faces of families huddled together. Children trace patterns in ash, imitating the movements of adults as they forage or track animals. Conversations are quiet, filled with observation and instruction. In these simple, deliberate actions, early humans embody resilience, learning to live with care and attentiveness. Even in the aftermath of monumental events, Toba's eruption also offers a gentle reflection on the fragility and persistence of humanity. Small groups, scattered across continents, relied on cooperation, shared knowledge, and careful adaptation. The bottleneck in human populations, while significant, did not erase humanity. It shaped behaviors that emphasized observation, collaboration, and resilience. This quiet, deliberate survival provides a lesson for all of us. That mindfulness, attentiveness, and cooperation are powerful tools in navigating both environmental challenges and the subtle rhythms of life itself. Across the broader landscape, ecosystems slowly regained balance, forests matured, rivers carried enriched sediments, and animals adjusted migration and feeding patterns. The faint traces of volcanic ash in soil encouraged new plant growth, while other areas remained slower to recover. Humans observed, learned, and adapted. The interplay between attentiveness and environment created a cycle of understanding, where careful observation and thoughtful response ensured survival through periods of subtle yet pervasive challenge. Imagine walking through a gently recovering forest. Leaves glisten in soft, filtered sunlight, streams murmur quietly, and birds move cautiously among branches. Humans navigate this world with care, collecting water, foraging edible plants, and tracking animals with a patient rhythm. Children watch and learn, absorbing knowledge through subtle observation and guided participation. In these quiet practices, life persists, harmonizing human activity with the broader environment and ensuring continuity through both challenge and adaptation. Anthropologists reflect on Toba as both a natural event and a mirror of human resilience. How did small groups maintain cohesion? How did observation and careful action allow survival? What lessons in adaptability and cooperation were passed from one generation to the next? These questions are not merely academic, they invite a contemplative reflection on the ways in which attentive patience and mindful observation shape the entrance of life itself. Even in the face of such monumental forces, life persisted. Humans, animals, and plants adjusted, adapted, and endured. Each subtle action, sharing food, maintaining fire, observing animal behavior, or following environmental cues contributed to survival in a world quietly recalibrating after catastrophe. This is a reminder that resilience is not always loud or dramatic. It is often a slow, deliberate process, woven through daily observation, thoughtful decision-making, and harmonious interaction with the environment. As we contemplate Toba today, it becomes clear that the eruption story is as much about life enduring as it is about destruction. Humans survive not only because of physical ability, but because of attentiveness, cooperation, and the wisdom to navigate subtle environmental cues. The echoes of this ancient resilience carry forward, informing our understanding of human adaptability, social cohesion, and the delicate balance between life and the forces of nature. Imagine the soft hush of a world recovering centuries later. Streams flow steadily, forests mature, and wildlife moves with measured rhythms. Humans continue their careful practices, guided by observation, cooperation, and accumulated knowledge. Children play while learning the quiet art of attentiveness. Elders share stories that reinforce practical wisdom and reflective understanding. The past merges seamlessly with the present, creating a tapestry of endurance, harmony, and patient adaptation. The broader implication of Toba's eruption is clear. Humanity's capacity for resilience is both profound and quiet. It is measured in small acts of observation, attentiveness, and cooperation. It is reflected in the ability to adapt to altered environments, to notice subtle cues in climate, plants, and animals, and to share knowledge across generations. This enduring adaptability allowed humans to survive monumental disruption, shaping patterns of life that continue to ripple through history. And so, as the centuries pass, we are left with a gentle meditation. Life persists through attentiveness, reflection, and care. Nature transforms, humans adapt, and ecosystems recover in quiet, deliberate rhythms. Toba's eruption, while immense and transformative, becomes part of a larger story, one of endurance, harmony, and the subtle, remarkable persistence of life in the face of profound challenge. As we move toward the quiet close of this journey, it is worth pausing to reflect on the remarkable story of Toba's eruption and its gentle echoes. Through time, though the event itself was immense, reshaping landscapes and altering climates, its legacy is equally about life's endurance, human resilience, and the subtle, patient adaptation that allowed our ancestors to survive. The story is not merely of destruction, it is a story of attentiveness, observation, and the quiet rhythms that guide survival. Imagine, for a moment, walking through a recovering landscape. Soft sunlight filters through leaves, rivers murmur gently over ash-enriched soil, and the air carries the subtle scent of renewal. Early humans move carefully across this terrain, observing patterns in animals, plants, and weather. Children watch, learning the delicate art of attentiveness, while elders guide with quiet wisdom. Every action, from collecting water to tracking prey, demonstrates careful thought and reflection, a measured interaction with the world that ensures survival while nurturing understanding. The eruption also offers a lesson in perspective. While its scale was tremendous, ash clouds stretching across the sky, rivers carrying sediment, forests temporarily subdued, it reminds us that life can endure even the most extraordinary challenges. Humans, animals, and plants each responded in ways attuned to their strengths and capacities. Humans survived not simply through physical strength, but through observation, cooperation, and the sharing of knowledge across generations. Small actions became meaningful, tending a fire, navigating a river, observing animal tracks, or choosing a shelter. These acts of care and attentiveness became the foundation of resilience. Consider the interconnectedness of life. The eruption influenced climate, altered ecosystems, and affected human populations, yet life responded in an intricate, adaptive dance. Rivers carried minerals that nourished soil. Forests regenerated slowly but steadily. Animals shifted migration patterns, signaling cues to human observers. And humans adapted social and cultural practices to navigate these changes. Observing these subtle connections teaches us that resilience is often collaborative and reflective, rooted in attentiveness to the world and each other, even today. The echoes of Toba's eruption whisper lessons about patience and adaptation. Scientific studies examine genetic bottlenecks, climate change, and ecological recovery, revealing how humanity and nature endured extraordinary circumstances. Yet these insights are more than scientific, they are contemplative. They encourage us to notice the small deliberate ways in which life continues, the slow growth of a forest, the careful movement of animals, the transmission of knowledge across generations, and the subtle ways humans adapt to challenges beyond their control. Imagine the daily life of a small group during the centuries following the eruption, ash-dusted. Rivers flow steadily, and soft sunlight filters through recovering forests. Elders teach observation of subtle environmental cues. Children watch the movements of birds and animals, learning patterns and rhythms that guide foraging, hunting, and movement. Cooperation and shared knowledge become essential to survival. These moments, though ordinary, are powerful lessons in resilience, reflection, and the quiet intelligence required to live harmoniously with a transforming world. The Toba eruption also invites us to consider what-if scenarios. What if early humans had not adapted so thoughtfully? What if observation and cooperation had been less developed? These questions underscore the subtle significance of attentiveness and careful action. Survival was not guaranteed by chance alone, it was shaped by keen observation, reflection, and deliberate choice. Each careful action became a thread in the fabric of continuity, weaving patterns of knowledge and resilience that extended through generations. Nature, too, demonstrates its quiet resilience. Rivers recover their flow, forests grow in ash-enriched soil, and animals find new patterns of movement. Life persists in subtle, interconnected ways. Humans, as part of this web, participate by observing, learning, and adapting. The story of Toba is thus not only a tale of an extraordinary eruption, but also a meditation on the continuity of life, the slow, deliberate rhythm of recovery and adaptation that allows species, ecosystems, and communities to endure. Even as centuries passed, the eruption remained a quiet reference point for human adaptation. Population structure shifted, migrations occurred, and knowledge was transmitted across generations. These adjustments were gradual, measured, and reflective, emphasizing the importance of observation, patience, and social cohesion. The survival of humanity during this period demonstrates the profound intelligence embedded in attentiveness, curiosity, and thoughtful engagement with the environment. Consider how this ancient story resonates today. We, too, navigate a world with its own subtle challenges, changes in climate, ecosystems, and social structures. The lessons of Toba remind us that patience, observation, and cooperation are vital. Small acts, watching, listening, reflecting, become tools for adaptation. Just as early humans learned to read subtle environmental cues, we can learn to navigate our own circumstances with care, attentiveness, and thoughtful action. Imagine the quiet evenings of this world centuries later. Streams flow calmly, forests are lush and full, and wildlife moves gracefully through the recovering landscape. Humans sit near flickering fires, sharing stories that teach reflection, observation, and understanding. Children imitate, learning the rhythms of life and the importance of careful attentiveness. In these small, deliberate acts, resilience is cultivated and carried forward, ensuring continuity and harmony with the world. Ultimately, the story of Toba is a meditation on endurance. It invites reflection on the interplay of catastrophe and adaptation, destruction and continuity, humans, animals, and plants each respond in ways that are deliberate, attentive, and measured. Even in the face of forces far beyond comprehension, life finds ways to persist, adapt, and thrive. Observing this story encourages a sense of calm, a gentle awareness of life's resilience, and a recognition of the quiet power of attentiveness and cooperation. As we conclude this meditation, it is worth holding onto the subtle lessons of this ancient time. Life, though sometimes challenged by extraordinary events, continues through attentiveness, observation, and reflection. Survival is a tapestry woven from countless small acts, each deliberate, each meaningful. Humanity endured Toba not merely through strength, but through careful observation, social cohesion, and a gentle, persistent engagement with the world. In this quiet reflection, we can imagine walking through softly recovering valleys, hearing rivers murmur over ash-enriched soil, noticing the gentle movements of animals, and observing the slow return of vibrant vegetation. We can sense the rhythms of early human life, children learning, elders guiding, and communities working together. In these meditative, deliberate practices, resilience, adaptability, and harmony emerge. And so, we leave this story with a sense of calm and wonder. Toba's eruption was immense, transformative, and challenging. Yet it also revealed the subtle strengths of humanity and nature. Life endures through careful observation, patient adaptation, and quiet cooperation. The echoes of this ancient event remind us that resilience is often gentle, enduring, and profoundly interconnected with the rhythms of the natural world. As we reach the final moments of our journey through this ancient story, let us take a quiet breath and allow the imagery of Toba and its aftermath to settle gently in the mind. Picture a landscape that has slowly healed over centuries, a world where rivers flow calmly, forests hum with life, and the air carries the soft, earthy fragrance of renewal. Even the faint traces of ash have become part of the fertile soil, nurturing the growth of new plants and the quiet return of animals to their natural rhythms. Early humans, small and observant, moved with care through this recovering world, Every day was a practice in attentiveness, collecting water, foraging for plants, tracking the movements of animals, tending fires, and passing knowledge to the young. Imagine the children following elders, their eyes wide with curiosity, learning the rhythms of nature, the signs in animal tracks, and the subtle cues in changing weather. These acts, so simple in appearance, were in fact profound lessons in patience, reflection, and resilience. Science has helped us understand these centuries in ways that blend curiosity with imagination. Genetic studies hint at population bottlenecks and migration patterns. Climate models reveal subtle cooling and altered rainfall. Ecological studies show how plants and animals adjusted to shifting environments. Yet, even with these insights, much remains mysterious. How exactly did humans adapt in daily life? Which observations and strategies ensured survival? These open questions invite gentle contemplation, offering space for the mind to wander through a world that is both ancient and profoundly instructive. Imagine walking alongside one of these small communities in a quiet forest glade, the soft crunch of leaves underfoot, the distant call of birds, and the murmuring of a nearby stream create a rhythm that is both calming and instructive. Humans move carefully, noticing subtle changes in their surroundings, the way shadows fall on the ground, the movement of small animals, the scent of wet soil after a brief rain. Each observation guides action, teaching attentiveness, fostering patience, and cultivating a quiet harmony with the environment. Even the natural world itself speaks too. Recovery and resilience. Trees sway gently in the breeze, new leaves reflecting filtered sunlight. Streams carry water enriched by minerals deposited long ago, nourishing plants and creating pathways for life to flourish. Birds sing softly. Insects pollinate blossoms, and small mammals weave through the undergrowth. Everything moves in quiet cooperation, a rhythm of persistence that early humans learned to observe and respond to with care. Consider the role of storytelling and knowledge sharing in these communities. Elders would explain which plants were edible, which paths were safest, and how animal behaviors could predict shifts in weather or seasonal changes. These stories were not merely entertainment, they were practical lessons, a form of slow, deliberate education that ensured survival and nurtured understanding. Children absorbed these lessons naturally, participating in daily routines and observing every subtle cue with growing attentiveness. The quiet power of cooperation emerges throughout this reflection. Humans survived not solely through individual strength, but through collective attentiveness and shared action. Small groups relied on each other to navigate changing landscapes, track animals, harvest plants, and maintain fires. The wisdom of observation, combined with careful social cooperation, created a foundation that allowed life to endure even in the aftermath of immense disruption. Imagine the final light of day fading over a gently recovering valley. Streams glisten softly, the forest hums with quiet life, and animals move with calm purpose. Humans gather near a fire, sharing knowledge, stories, and quiet companionship. Children mimic movements of adults, learning how to forage, navigate, and observe. Every action is deliberate, every movement a reflection of care, patience, and attentiveness. This rhythm, though quiet and subtle, ensures continuity, resilience, and harmony with the world. As we conclude, consider the broader lessons Toba offers. Life persists through attentiveness, reflection, and cooperative effort. Adaptation is often quiet, gradual, and deliberate. Human resilience is built not only on physical ability but on observation, knowledge, and patience. Ecosystems, too, demonstrate this same quiet persistence, gradually adjusting to changes, nurturing life, and providing subtle guidance to those who watch and listen carefully. Imagine a final deep breath in this meditative landscape. The warmth of the sun is gentle. Rivers flow softly. And the forest carries a subtle, calming fragrance. The past and present converge in quiet reflection, ancient humans, animals, and plants, all navigating their rhythms with care and attentiveness. Life, in all its forms, continues its measured, deliberate pace, teaching us the enduring value of patience, observation, and gentle adaptation. In these closing moments, we can carry forward a sense of calm and wonder. The eruption of Toba, though immense and transformative, also reveals the quiet strengths of life, resilience, attentiveness, and harmonious interaction with the environment. Even in the face of forces beyond immediate control, life persists through small, meaningful acts. Through learning, observation, and thoughtful cooperation. And so, as we allow this story to settle in the mind, imagine the gentle flow of rivers, the quiet rustling of leaves, the soft calls of birds, and the calm presence of humans moving thoughtfully through the recovering landscape. The past becomes a meditation, a lesson in endurance and attentiveness, and a quiet reminder of the remarkable capacity of life to endure, adapt, and flourish. Rest now with the gentle knowledge that life, in all its forms, continues its calm, deliberate rhythms. The eruption, though monumental, is but one chapter in the ongoing story of resilience, adaptation, and harmony, like the rivers, forests, and early human communities we have imagined. We too can move with care, observe with attention, and navigate challenges with quiet wisdom. Let the soft imagery of this ancient world fade gently into your mind, carrying a sense of peace, reflection, and calm. Life persists quietly, patiently, and harmoniously, and in that persistence, there is a gentle reassurance, a calm rhythm that endures across millennia, softly echoing through time, and quietly teaching the timeless lessons of attentiveness, patience, and resilience.